Midtown Manhattan to light up all this stuff.
Oh, my word.
Although
Here
the
it is.
people are saying, I haven't seen the bill yet in my house, but they say that utility bills across the country with this tax plan are actually going down.
At about a half a dozen different utilities. I don't know that Con Ed is one of them, but down in Baltimore it is. Just another one of those things that happened after the tax cut went through we didn't know about. We've got a great montage we're going to show you regarding that in a minute. Meantime, thanks for joining us on this Tuesday.
All right, let me tell you what's straight ahead. In fact, we're going to be talking about this right now. President Trump firing back at Democratic Senator Dick Durbin. I don't know if you heard about this.
The commander-in-chief blasting Durbin for misrepresenting what he said during an Oval Office meeting on DACA.
All this as a government shutdown looms on Friday with no deal in sight right now. Griff Jenkins breaking it down in the shadow of the Capitol. Griff.
Good morning, guys. What a difference a week makes. Remember watching the president negotiating with the Democrats for nearly an hour last week? Well, now the president says Democrats don't even want to make a deal, as Senator Dick Durbin and the president are caught in a war of words over what the president did or did not say. And now we have a new nickname. The president tweeting, Senator Dickie Durbin totally misrepresented what was said at the DACA meeting. Deals can't get made when there is no trust. Durbin blew DACA and is hurting our military, but Durbin, responsible for revealing the S-hole controversy in the first place, is defending his allegations.
I stand behind every word that I said in terms of that meeting. I'm focused on one thing, not that meeting, but on making sure that those who are being protected by DACA and eligible for the DREAM Act have a future in America.
Now, if there was any hope left that a bipartisan deal was possible, the administration and Republicans have made it very clear that the idea of a clean DACA deal is not on the table. So, meanwhile, I should point out that a growing list of Democrats led by Maxine Waters has announced that they're boycotting the president's State of the Union speech in 2 weeks. But bottom line, if there's no deal by Friday, guys, and Democrats refuse to support a funding bill, then we could be headed for a government shutdown. The GOP House could do it alone, but not in the Senate. They'll need 9 Democrats. And finally, just how challenging is this? Well, in the words of our senior Capitol Hill producer, Chad Pergram, not even the amps from Spinal Tap go that high.
Wow, very interesting. I like that analogy.
Chad. All right. Thank you very much, Griff.
Thanks, Griff.
We got 2 days. Today, the Senate goes back to work. They needed 3 or 4 days off. Then they're going to pass FISA, the FISA laws on today, so they're not going to touch anything. So even if the deal is in place, they got 2 days to draft legislation and pass anything to go along with the spending plan. The only thing possible is a shutdown or a CR.
So it sounds like what they're going to do, because they don't have anything on the table, they're going to say, okay, we're going to do another short-term patch, but the Republicans at this point have not announced how long it would go and whether or not it would include hurricane relief and also the CHIP program. Now, if they put those 2 elements in that, then that's going to be maximum pressure on the Democrats. Wait, you're not going to vote for the children? You're not going to vote for hurricane relief? Really? So they think they'll be able to get a short-term patch.
There will be a short-term
to kick that can down the road a little bit.
There will be a short-term patch. They're going to use the CR. There's no way they're going to let this government shut down. Representative Congresswoman Martha McSally was on Fox yesterday, and she had a message for the Democrats. Listen.
There's no such thing as doing a clean DREAM Act. The Democrats need to get over it. It's not happening. We in our bill have come up with the president's priorities, the American people's priorities, and that should be a starting place for these negotiations.
But I agree with you, Ainsley. It's likely you're right, but there's a chance there's going to be a shutdown.
It's very rare.
Because
very rare.
Yeah, but 32 Democratic senators voted against the CR before Christmas, and you wonder how many more we're going to be told, hey, we have the president in a box because of the controversy over the weekend, and I think it would be a miscalculation, but maybe that could be the stream of thought. Like, we have a chance to do this because, Steve, your scenario is also correct in that if you put those 2 things out there, they could be angry at the kids and angry at victims. However, what if you say to yourself, if you were Chuck Schumer and they stormed into your office demanding DACA? What if you were Nancy Pelosi and you're making a speech and you get interrupted by the so-called DACA kids? Are you really going to say, I did nothing again?
Well, that's what happened last time because they were, the Democrats have taken a lot of heat from their core base. Why didn't you come up with a DACA deal then? But then at the same time, it's like the stars are not aligned at this point. This part of the week to do it. And so remember the olden days when people used to, on Capitol Hill, just do one bill at a time and not have to glom a bunch of other stuff onto it? Now it looks like to get the Democrats would like, if you're going to fund the government, you got to do the DACA deal.
Yeah.
There's just not enough time right now.
It's give and take. And we asked for your comments earlier in the show, and John wrote us and said the Dems' idea of a deal or compromise is you give us what we want and we'll call it a deal.
Yep. James emailed, Dems need to stop playing games and do what's right for the American people who put them in office.
All right, some of the same sentiment. What about this one from Jim? All the Dems want us to stall until they get what they want, then blame the GOP when it goes bad. Business as usual. So all the emails seem to be going the same direction.
Pretty much. They would like something done. Now we touched on this at the top of the program. In the run-up to the passage of the tax bill, the mainstream media pretty much painted it as if this thing passes, it's going to be a boon for just rich people and big corporations and Armageddon. It's going to be the end of the world. The Washington Free Beacon put together a montage where you hear some of the hyperbole before the tax bill passed, and then it is ended each time with a little bit of clarity on what actually happened. Watch this.
It feels like you're relying on this tax cut of the corporations, of the wealthy, to trickle down.
Yeah. Southwest and American Airlines both announcing they're going to give $1,000 bonuses to employees following the tax overhaul.
So you're creating a huge tax cut,
right,
and you might not get wage growth.
Right.
Capital One Financial, which just confirmed to CNBC that they will raise the minimum wage for all U.S.-based employees at Capital One to $15 per hour.
And anybody who thinks that this corporate tax cut is going to trickle down to lift wages has a staggering ignorance. He's distributing their tax savings to their workers.
Sinclair Broadcasting and Kansas City Southern are among others committing to bonuses.
Generally speaking, when companies get tax cuts, they keep them for themselves and distribute them to the shareholders.
BB&T pledging to give out bonuses of $1,200 for almost 75% of its workforce.
That was brilliant.
That's awesome. That is, I wrote
no trickle down, no bonuses.
No examples anywhere. This is nonsense. It's a fantasy world. If you believe that wages are going to go up, it is staggering ignorance.
And not only that, the other reported thing is people are hiring. They feel as though they can hire. They feel, and guess what? When they hire, there's now competition for the worker. If you want competition for the worker, that's the best way to get a salary increase and get better benefits.
And Brian, to your point earlier, when we were talking about the light bill here, there are a number of utilities, public utilities and privately held utilities that are going to reduce their rates to the folks because they got a cut in their taxes from Uncle Sam.
My dad will be so glad.
Nobody saw that coming.
Growing up, you had to turn the light off every time you left, and my dad made it a habit for us. I do it every time now.
So we had a big decision as a family to go on dimmers. I remember it was very controversial.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't do it myself, but we would dim a little bit.
Well, there
what
you
do you
go.
mean you couldn't do it yourself?
I actually didn't know how to do the outlets, but we had someone come in and put
Your
dimmers
brother
on.
who's done it for me before.
He could do it at 4 years old.
Look at that.
Right.
Anyway,
the electrician.
That's a little of what's going on in the news, and Jillian joins us right now with a Fox News alert.
Yes, we are following multiple breaking news stories. So let's get you caught up, starting with this Fox News alert. 4 law enforcement officers shot overnight in South Carolina. Deputies responding to a domestic violence call in York County. That's just outside Charlotte, North Carolina. The suspect, Christian Thomas McCall, started running before cops got there. Police say he shot a canine officer when they tracked him down and opened fire on 3 deputies hours later. Their conditions all still unknown.
We could really use your prayers, and we could really use your thoughts right now for those officers.
The suspect also shot. Still no word on a motive. Also breaking, a very disturbing report out of California. They're calling it a house of horrors. David and Louise Turpin accused of holding their 13 children captive in one room, some of them starving and chained to beds. Police making the discovery about 30 miles outside of San Bernardino after one of their brave daughters escaped to call 911. Authorities say the siblings range in age from 2 to 29. Their parents facing several charges, including torture and child abuse. They're being held on a $9 million bond. How neighbors are reacting is coming up in a live report, so stay tuned for that. The White House set to release more details about President Trump's first physical exam as commander-in-chief today. Navy physician Dr. Ronnie Jackson said President Trump, who is 71 years old, is in excellent health after his checkup on Friday, but will provide a more in-depth update. Presidents are not required to undergo medical exams. Well, it's official. In case you were wondering, NASCAR driver Danica Patrick and Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers are dating.
She didn't tell us.
How about it?
She did Cooking with Friends, didn't mention anything.
She's confirming the relationship after weeks of rumors, saying the two met at the ESPYs back in 2012 and have stayed friendly since. Patrick also admitting she's always cheered for Rodgers despite being a longtime Chicago Bears fan.
So she's retiring from
Right.
racing. So do you think this means she's going to get married and have babies?
Oh, I don't know, but
Right, Jillian would know that. Jillian would absolutely
yes,
know that.
I have the inside scoop.
She's ready for the next phase in her life.
Listen, they're just dating. That's all.
Yeah, but we like to think, we like to hope, we like romance and love.
I hate those questions when people like press. I'm like, just relax, okay?
I know. Oh, wait, it never ends either. Like, you get engaged, then, okay, when's the baby coming? Then when's the next baby coming?
We just got confirmation of dating. That's all.
Well,
It might
they might have.
Maybe they only went out for coffee.
Right. I mean, that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Jillian, for starting that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. Coming up on this Tuesday, Maxine Waters says she's boycotting the State of the Union. Now one veteran is making an offer to go in her place. Will she say he can't go?
And
this is Armageddon. This is a very big deal.
I am so scared. That's what Nancy Pelosi said during the tax reform debate 3 weeks ago. Now this may be Armageddon. Well, I'm not really sure it adds up to Armageddon. More and more people are getting fed up with high taxes in blue states and are moving out. So for Democrats, this might be Armageddon for them. You got states like Illinois, New Jersey, New York, and even Connecticut topping the list of outbound moves, according to a new report, because the taxes are so high. Here to explain what it all means, Brian Brenberg, chair of the program in business and finance at King's College in New York City. Brian, we're already seeing some moves prior to this tax bill passing, right?
Oh, yeah. Even before we're getting the tax bill, you're seeing people move out of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Why? Because they don't like the high taxes. They don't like the high regulation. You can see why Nancy Pelosi is so concerned, because if they're already moving out now, just wait till this tax bill hits. They lose a deduction for those state and local taxes. They're going to say, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I want to go to a place where it's easy to start a business. It's easy to hire workers. It's easy to get a job. And those places are not in high tax states.
And Brian, you know, there's an indication that you're 100% right in that in my state in particular of New York, the lines were so long before the new year ended to prepay your taxes under the old tax rules. If it didn't matter to people, they wouldn't have been doing that.
No, look, if you're in a state where you have to prepay your taxes to get around problems, they're just going to say, forget it. I don't want to be a part of that. And so that's why you're seeing the Mountain West, the Southwest, the Southeast, states where taxes are lower, regulations are lower. People are flocking there.
All right, so here's some of the states. In Illinois, the tax is at 11%. In New Jersey, it's at 12.2%. In New York, 12.7%. And in Connecticut, 12.6%. The top outbound states to receive it are kind of interesting as well, because the place where they're going to are the Florida, the Nevada, Alabama, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And dare I say what I've seen personally in Tennessee. They're going there, too.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to go to places where you can live the kind of life you want to live. And in places like New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, you feel like the government's telling you how you need to use your money, what you can do in your work, what you can do in your personal life. And people have choices. That's the point of states. You have choices where you can go.
And here's the thing. A lot of people don't need to go to the office to work effectively, right? So then you could say, I could pay less taxes, work from my house, whether you're a writer or you're a computer programmer, and you could go into a state. I see a multi-million-dollar baseball player say, I'm going to live in Florida, not New York or Illinois, because I want to save money.
Yeah, technology gives people choices. They can go where they want. This is what, you know, left-leaning states hate this so much. They hate that people have choices. They hate that they can go where they want to. And that's why they're complaining so much about a tax bill that's so good for the middle class. And suing, instead of fixing the underlying problem, like in New York, they're suing the federal government. Instead of making life better for their citizens, they're trying to say this is a problem for everybody. No, it's not. It's a problem for high-tax states, guys, not everybody else.
All right, Brian Brenberg, King's College, thanks so much.
Good to be here.
All right, straight ahead. The story of the first U.S. Special Forces members into fight in Afghanistan right after the 9/11 attacks. This story is coming to the big screen, but first they're coming to us. Two real-life heroes who led the team to take down the Taliban are depicted in this film that is going to be premiering tonight. Joining us right now is Major Mark Nunch and retired Chief Warrant Officer Bob Pennington. Welcome, guys. Great to see you.
Thanks.
In person.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us. My favorite show right here. I'm glad.
Well, thank you very much.
Right. Ainsley likes the show, too. I mean,
It happens to be my favorite show, too.
Yeah.
Tell us your story. What happened? We'll start with you.
9/11 attacks.
9/11 attacks. And actually, I was out on a mission at the time, doing a training exercise. And I was had some Zodiac boats. I was a 595 is marked as a maritime team, and took some boats down the Columbia River in Nashville, and did a direct action exercise hit. And then we loaded up the boats, came back the next morning, and then heard the news, and we were all looking around going, this is a terrorist attack.
Yeah, no kidding. Mark, we covered your essential assault, the initial assault, live on this program.
Really?
And we remember running, and Brian was here too, we remember seeing the pictures of Afghanistan, and those are Americans on horses.
Yeah, Americans on horseback.
You had to adjust to the scene.
Yeah.
The horses were your secret weapon, weren't they?
We're, 12-man team of Green Berets with our CIA partners were initially sent in for this mission. A lot of unknowns. They had to send some people in to figure out and get some answers. Link up with our Northern Alliance allies, with General Dostum, Commander Atta, and Commander Moakek. They were the leaders of 3 different ethnic factions of the Northern Alliance that were all fighting against Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But someone had to go in there to get some answers. And our team was honored and humbled to be one of the first of several Special Forces teams from the 5th Special Forces Group, part of Task Force Dagger, sent in to do that initial mission.
Go ahead.
But the horses proved to be a great asset to us because of the mobility. Absolutely, mobility.
You could get over the mountains.
Whose
and the
idea
terrain.
was that?
Absolutely.
Well, when the very first morning in country, General Dostum come riding up on horseback, and we realized pretty quickly, we asked him to take us closer to the enemy on the first day after he briefed us the situation. And 6 of my team mounted horseback for the first time and moved about 4 hours with him through the mountains, very dangerous. Our sergeants did an incredible job of not just dealing with the new challenge of horseback, but just that combat situation, the rugged terrain, the environment, the enemy.
Combined with the Northern Alliance, right, on the ground to take on a fighting force that destroyed the Soviet Union. So you must, in the back of your mind, think to yourself, I have no idea if I'm going to get out of this.
And even these young sergeants, we did what no other team did. We decentralized down into 4 3-man teams. And so you had these sergeants teamed up with 300 or 400 other fighters from the other factions, some of the other factions, and we were able to envelop the battlefield.
How did you go from that to now a movie that premieres tonight? You laugh. Unbelievable, right?
Our team is honored and humbled that we're helped represent the Special Forces community, the Green Beret community, the broader Special Operations Task Force. We hope it will shed some light on the other great, incredible stories that are yet untold of other Special Forces teams.
Many.
The real men, the real people that did not only the mission that's portrayed in this film, which portrays all the main actors from the Air Force Special Operations Command, from Task Force Dagger, from the CIA, our Afghan allies, certainly.
What was the reaction from the Afghans when you guys rode up on horses?
Well, they rode up to us on horses.
Right. And you hopped on them and said, okay, let's go.
Yeah, we were inserted by helicopter. Incredible, harrowing ride through the mountains that got us in there in the middle of the night. And by the first morning, we had met with the CIA, who then introduced us to our Afghan allies, rode up on horseback.
Who were begging for years for us to get involved, so they love seeing Americans.
And one of the things that we had talked about is when Massoud had been assassinated, would that have changed the tide of the Northern Alliance at all? But it didn't. They were still ready to join forces with us.
It just amazes me, though, when I was learning about what y'all did on horseback. I mean, Mark, you grew up riding rodeo star, but Bob...
I wouldn't say a star, but yes,
you knew how to ride a horse.
High school.
But I was thinking they probably selected 12 equestrians, and you said no.
No.
How did you learn to fight and use your weapons and technology on horseback?
Yeah, that was... very painful.
On-the-job training.
I still have saddle sores from those.
It was incredible. We had essentially a 19th century force on horseback in the rugged terrain. They're armed with 20th century weapons, AK-47s, assault rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, and then our Special Forces team brings in 21st century technology with satellite radios, with global positioning devices and night vision goggles, lasers, laser target designators. And then, of course, above us, we had this incredible aerial armada of every manner of inter-service aircraft that was at our back.
Our biggest thing was the coordinating the fire, because you had now the Afghans doing cavalry charges, and we dropping the bombs at basically the same time.
You had to take out the Taliban and get Al-Qaeda. And you didn't know if the next attack was coming. Time mattered. We waited about 3 weeks to get in, and when we got in, it was quiet because it was you guys. And knowing that, now that Omar's dead and Bin Laden's dead, does it feel better today, knowing that these two guys have
certainly that was just some of the leadership. There's, our enemy has evolved, has adapted. They've shifted. They've rebranded, and are in different parts of the world. And there are teams of Green Berets today and our other special operations forces that are out there on the frontier, different countries, working closely with local partners.
Did you like the movie?
Yes, it had to watch it a couple of times, but I like the depiction of how they show what a Special Forces team is all about, and how we adapted, how we overcame those tough challenges out there. And they were tough challenges.
No kidding. Well, we look forward to watching the movie. It officially premieres, rolls out nationwide on the 19th.
That's correct.
Well, Bob and Mark, thank you very much for your service.
It's a pleasure.
We've been encouraged to work on a book to help tell more about this experience. So.
Yeah.
You got it.
Well, you'll have to do that and come back and tell us about it.
I further encourage you.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
God bless you. Thanks for serving.
You.
All right.
Thank you.
More Fox and Friends in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
7:35 here in New York City, back with the Fox News Alert. A very disturbing report out of California. They're calling it a house of horrors. A number of children found starving, chained to their beds.
The parents arrested after one of their brave daughters escaped to go and call police.
Todd Pyro is here with the horrific details that are still unfolding. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Steve. Ainsley. Hey, Brian. When officers went inside the home of David and Louise Turpin, they found several children shackled to beds with chains and padlocks in dark and foul-smelling surroundings. The parents unable to explain why. The investigation began after a 17-year-old girl escaped from the home in Paris, California, and called 911 early Sunday to report that her 12 brothers and sisters were being held by their parents. Investigators initially believed that girl was just 10 years old because she was so emaciated. And they also thought all the victims were kids, but eventually discovered that 7 of them were adults. The sheriff's office said the victims appeared to be malnourished and very dirty. They were sent to local hospitals for treatment, but their conditions were not immediately known.
They were all in PJs because it was early in the morning. They were very, very pale skinned, like almost like they've never seen the sun. But I've seen a couple of the older ones, so they all, and it was mostly girls, and then kind of small framed, I'd say kind of tiny, almost looked a little malnutritioned.
I always had a suspicion because that house never looked like there was a lot of action in front of it.
Los Angeles Times reported that Turpin's home address was listed as the location of the Sandcastle Day School, a public K-12 institution that opened in 2011. Also, the New York Times reported that the Turpins filed for bankruptcy that same year. At that time, David Turpin worked as an engineer at Northrop Grumman. David and Louise Turpin are each being held on $9 million bail, and according to the grandparents of those children, the couple felt God had called on them to have so many kids. Guys, back to you.
All right, Todd, we thank you very much. I was reading one story this morning that said that the neighbors thought the kids looked like vampires from the movie Twilight because they were never outside. So,
Well, you know, I mean, the grandparents didn't go over there and check on them. Neighbors didn't, nothing. They get to the
We're going to
point
get
where
all the
they're so-
details
Yeah.
soon. Right, especially it reminds me of that crazy story you had in the block a few years ago when those kids were kidnapped and chained.
Oh my gosh, the ones in Cleveland that
Yep.
trapped for 10 years in the basement.
Terrible. All right, 23 minutes before the top of the hour, Jillian's got some more headlines.
And that's right. Good morning to you guys. Washington State Representative Pramila Jayapal, the latest member of Congress to announce they're boycotting President Trump's first State of the Union address.
I think it is absolutely unacceptable to see the racism and the hatred coming out of the White House, the way in which this president is fueling the flames of divisiveness across our country.
Well, she joins Representatives Lewis, Wilson, Blumenauer, and Maxine Waters in skipping the speech. In light of that, one military veteran tweeting Fox News, quote, "I would like to take Maxine Waters' seats at the State of the Union address. If they don't want to go, this military veteran would gladly go. I'll tell the president how much he means to myself, family, military, and all of his supporters." An Army veteran is suing a VA hospital for leaving a scalpel inside of him after surgery. Glenford Turner says this x-ray shows the knife in his body. Doctors in Connecticut found it years later after Turner complained of long-term abdominal pain. He then needed more surgery to have the blade removed. The Department of Veterans Affairs has not yet commented. Well, you can run, but you can't hide. Michigan State Police helping local cops on the ground catch a car thief from above. Watch.
Now running westbound, or correction, eastbound. There you go. You got him.
Oh, helicopter video showing Detroit police surround and arrest the suspect after a wild chase. The airborne help is part of an initiative to combat crime in the state's most dangerous cities. Well, most dog lovers and owners would rather hang out with their pets than people. That's according to a new study, which found out more than half of Americans would skip out on human commitments specifically to get some quality time with their furry friend. The research done by Link AKC also found that the bond between people and their dog improves mental and emotional health. And I, for one, can tell you I agree with that. I go home on weekends to Philadelphia to spend time with my corgi Tyler. My mom always says, "You're only here to see the dog," to which I respond, yes. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. And Brian, I'm sure you agree with this story as well.
I have a picture of my dogs, and there I am holding them naturally.
That's sweet.
I mean, it's unbelievable. They have to hold their collar or they run from me. No, I'm only kidding. They are. I actually was just telling Stuart Varney, we rarely speak in the breaks, but this time we broke code. My dogs like me more every day.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that, Brian.
Every day the intensity increases, and not many people can say that about me.
I don't know what's prettier.
It usually goes the other way.
What's prettier, the dogs or Brian's yard?
Right.
Is that your backyard?
So my wife deserves full credit. She did a great job.
She did.
I gave her a trimmer and a lawnmower, and I said, make it nice.
It's a mansion, Brian.
All right, so
mansion.
we wanted to have Stuart on the show today because it is a huge day on Wall Street. Tell us why.
Okay, this is an explosive day. Sit back and watch history. At 9:30 Eastern Time this morning, the Dow Jones Industrial Average will hit 26,000. It was only 7 trading sessions ago that we hit 25,000. This is really an explosive event which doesn't get much coverage. Now, in the background, you've got a possible government shutdown.
Right.
You've got, as you were saying yesterday, Brian, you've got the possible withdrawal from NAFTA. Investors don't care. That's making no impact on Wall Street at all.
Nor did the controversy over the weekend.
No, it didn't. This is investors smell profit. More and more profit from American corporations, and that's the bedrock for stock prices.
Stuart, you said a moment ago this stock market ramp up not getting much coverage. Why is that?
Because it's the Trump rally. Anything positive for President Trump, whether it's the economy or anything, does not get coverage.
But this is historic.
It is historic, and it is inexplicable that I'm not seeing this on the front page of major newspapers or at the top of every newscast on media outlets. But we're not. They're ignoring it.
But I also thought that it was significant that how quick we got to 26,000 from 25,000. Did that matter?
7 days.
Yes,
That's explosive. That is a real. That's why the media should be covering it. You've never seen anything like this before. In October, we hit 23,000. November, 24,000. January the 4th, 25,000. Today, January the 16th, 26,000. How about that? Now, hold on a second. People come up to me and they say, I'm worried. What should I do? It can't keep going up like this.
Right.
If you're worried, you can A, sell everything, sleep well at night, go to safety and pay the profits tax next April 2019.
Right.
Or you can sell half your stuff so that you lock in your initial investment and let the rest of it ride. Right. You could put stop loss orders in. So if you've got Apple, say, and it's at $175 a share, tell your broker, I'm selling it if it gets to 160. So you limit your loss. You can do all of that.
Had those people who bought Bitcoin last month put their money in the stock market, they'd be smiling rather than crying.
And Bitcoin is down today to $11,000 per coin.
It is.
Why are you looking at me? I bought the minimal amount.
Yes, you did. We're going to be watching you for the big stock market rally
It's a
between
big
9
day.
and noon.
And I'm going to be on with you today.
Yes. You watch out.
Via the radio. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, 18 minutes before the top of the hour. Coming up straight ahead, can Republicans and Democrats strike an immigration deal and avoid a government shutdown? We're going to ask Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She promises to answer.
Plus, convicted leaker Chelsea Manning wants to be a U.S. Senator, so how can she be trusted to handle classified information
Did she win
inside
already?
Congress? Didn't do so well with it last time. That's coming up next.
Some quick animal headlines. That's the theme. A masked bandit caught red-handed breaking into a cell phone store. Police responding to a burglary at Boost Mobile. It's in Tennessee, only to find it was a raccoon that set off the alarm. Surveillance capturing the animal crawling into the store through the roof. The owner showing mercy by letting him escape out the front door because we're out of raccoons. And fire crews rescue a baby cow that fell 16 feet down a well. That's the story they're telling us. Rescuers in California using a rig to hold the 300-pound animal out after being stuck for 4 hours. Officials say the well was covered up, but the calf went through the wooden cover. The baby was then reunited with its mom. It'll be steak soon. Now this. Now this.
She spent 7 years in prison for leaking top government secrets, and now Chelsea Manning is running for Senate. But can a convicted leaker really have a shot at handling classified information in Congress?
Security Studies President Jim Hansen led secret counterterrorism operations while serving in the U.S. Army Special Forces. He joins us right now from our nation's capital. Jim, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to be with you. Okay, so what do you think about this idea that Chelsea Manning could be running for the U.S. Senate, could be a U.S. Senator?
I think it's absurd, but unfortunately not out of the question. You know, I mean, I guess it shows the resistance's true colors if someone like this can gain any level of support. I mean, maybe they could find Bo Bergdahl doesn't seem to be doing anything right now, and perhaps they could get Putin to send Eddie Snowden back and run the trifecta of traitors. This is an obscene thing, but there's no prohibition against it. Apparently, you can run for Senate as a felon.
Do you think that the voters in Maryland, do they know enough about her? If they go to the polls and maybe they haven't done their due diligence, or there are a lot of people on the ballot, they might recognize her name because her name's been in the media, and they might check the box? I mean, the largest leak of classified documents in U.S. history.
Yeah, I would like to think the people of Maryland are smarter than that, and she's running against an incumbent with a big war chest. So I don't think it's a great problem, but let's take a quick thought about what Manning actually was convicted of. This was the Espionage Act, dumping 750,000 classified and sensitive documents onto the internet, supposedly because there were war crimes that were going to be exposed. And yet, 0 war crimes were actually exposed. So this is someone who showed their oath meant nothing to them and their judgment is non-existent.
But the way I understand it, it also revealed informants that we had on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan, and a lot of them are dead today. And how this person was even eligible to come out prior to 35 years is unbelievable. And the only thing that Chelsea Manning has shown is an ungratefulness, even to President Obama, that she was exonerated from these charges.
Yeah, I mean, Obama showed some misguided sense of pity, not any reason to believe that this wasn't the crime that was committed. And as you mentioned, Manning's shown no remorse. So the idea that you would seat someone like this in the Senate if by some bizarre twist of fate she got elected, there's no prohibition against Chelsea Manning once again having access to our classified documents, because members of Congress don't have to go through the same security screening procedures as anybody else. It's a disgrace.
Well, let's see what happens. All right, Jim, thank you very much for joining us from our nation's capital.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, I don't think Ben Cardin has much to worry about. Meanwhile, people pay big bucks for financial advice, but for you, it's free, as far as we know. Rachel Cruz is next to answer your money questions live.
Plus, a new book reveals what the late Justice Anton Scalia really thought about candidate Donald Trump. The author who knew Scalia for decades is going to join us live.